Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to my colleague from New Hampshire for letting me go first. I have a few questions about the Navy ship Comfort. According to the Department of Defense, the Comfort has one of the largest trauma facilities in the United States, is equipped as well as any kind of floating hospital can be equipped. It is capable of treating 200 patients per day with 250 beds available. But yet we hear over and over again that there are people going without medical treatment. Despite that capability and the staff of over 800 trained personnel, the Comfort's treated only 100 patients 17 days after arriving in Puerto Rico on October 3rd and 30 days after Hurricane Maria made landfill. Dr. Cadillac, how many patients have been treated on the Comfort so far that you're familiar with? And can you elaborate on the challenges that we've had getting patients to the Comfort?
Sure, I think in the last count was 121 as a result of that. But ma'am, before you make a judgment on that, let me just explain what was the approach using the Comfort as it related to its high acuity capabilities. Which you're correct in saying there are 200 beds, but there are more importantly 50 intensive care unit beds on that boat. And that really was the capability we needed, because quite frankly, if you looked at the events on the island, we had a level 1 trauma center at Centro Medico, which was the east side of the island.
So how many of the patients that were treated aboard the Comfort were actually ICU patients?
Were high acuity patients.
Yeah.
Were, if I recall correctly, over 60. I can get you that number though, ma'am.
Yeah.
But the point was we used that as a floating intensive care unit, primarily in the basis when we were trying to...
So it's your judgment that the Comfort has been fully utilized for the need in Puerto Rico?
What it did was cover a critical bet that we had, which was based on the risk that hospitals would lose power because the majority of them, in fact, all of them were on generator for a period of time. Now we have 70% back on the grid. But for the time being, when the hospitals were on generators and the risk of failure before we could put backup generators, we used the Comfort as a place where we could take high acuity patients, transport them by helicopter, by rotary wing medevac helicopter.
I get all that, but I think anybody who looks at this, and maybe it's just the news, and I will turn to you, Administrator Long, who looks at the news and says, look, there's this huge medical need, people going without treatment, people at risk of losing their life. We have this incredible asset. This is an island. It's not like, the United States of America where you might have something 3,000 miles away. Why does it seem to be, to me, underutilized?
So I appreciate the question. I understand the frustrations of the questions. The goal is always, anytime you move medically fragile people, patients out of a hospital, you take a risk at them surviving that move to begin with. So the goal is to stabilize the situation in the hospitals. And there was a tremendous effort to do that because what we ran into was not only hospitals operating without power, but making sure that the generator actually worked, getting it fuel on a regular basis, and then maintenance of the generator ongoing. These generators aren't designed to run for months. And so what we did is we initiated the Comfort, and Bob, you could probably talk about the timeline it takes to actually do that. It's about an 8-day process to even turn the keys on, fuel the boat, get everybody staffed to even mobilize and go to the island. It's a long process, but the bottom line is we basically set up a 911 system, as I understand, to where in 2 or 3 cases, a hospital generator would fail. We would move the most medically fragile patients via helicopter from the hospital to the Comfort. I would argue that it was being utilized very well, and again, the goal is try to get the hospitals to operate. We're always going to be second guessed on everything, but try to get the hospitals to operate and serve patients where they are.
Administrator Long, I know Senator Tester hit on this, but one of the concerns that I have, given what now has landed on your plate, is that all of our talk about mitigation, all of our talk about preparedness will take a back seat to just dealing with the disasters that you've been handed. We all know, based on experiences with Katrina, with Sandy, this is not, we're here for a month and then we leave. What are you going to do, or what recommendations would you make to us in terms of staffing so that you have the capability of actually looking at mitigation and not just dealing with the crisis?
Sure, and I've been concerned about that because my staff and the coordination through the federal departments. I mean, tens of thousands of people have been deployed. I mean, if you look at the actual number that's been deployed, starting with Harvey, it's been unprecedented, and I don't have to say that. And unfortunately, I do feel like we're losing a lot of the successes that have actually been implemented as a result of the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act. A lot of things went right. A lot of things went right. So that we don't lose Puerto Rico, I plan to do an after-action report to make sure that we understand where we are versus where we need to be, specifically when it comes not only to Puerto Rico, but island territories.
Yeah.
I want to go back and hit the reset button. In regards to staff specifically, eventually I would like to change the entire hiring process of the Federal Emergency Management Agency to adopt a more FBI-style academy approach. I would also like to expand my staff out of those regional offices to the states and islands to make sure that we're a part of that discussion every day.
I think you received an incredible amount of bipartisan support, in part because we understood what role you played in the look back on Katrina. We hope that you will be equally critical of the work that you've done
Sure.
as administrator, but that you also will collaborate with us in terms of what you need. I think Senator Tester said it best. You can't look at this and then understand this continues and think that we don't have a huge challenge where we need to look at all hands on deck. What are the requirements that we want to impose on states so that they understand what their role is going to be, so they're not overly dependent on the federal government, but that this work is seamless. And so I look forward to additional conversations with you and to understanding what you need. But we can't give you what you need if you don't ask.
And we would be happy to put that ask together. And if I may, each citizen is responsible for their own individual preparedness. We do not have a true culture of preparedness in this country, and we need to hit the reset button and look at how we, partner with the Department of Education and give people critical skills. I mean, Gail McGovern with the Red Cross said that 1 in 4 of us is going to have to perform CPR, to someone else at any given time. Are we giving people those Boy Scout type skills? As well as tangible things to understand that they may be the true first responder for an active shooter event, or if they're your neighbor's house has collapsed upon them. That many times citizens are the first true responder, and we have to start dedicating our public awareness and cultural preparedness campaigns to doing that, as well as figuring out what the states need.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much for your hard work and all of you working under very, very difficult circumstances. We hope that Congress can be an effective partner for you.
And Senator Heitkamp, real quick before you leave, you may not have been here, but one of the action items I'm taking away from here is literally that state-by-state, territory-by-territory assessment. Who has prepared themselves? What is that? What is the current state, so we can determine something, mitigation. We will definitely follow that up with a hearing.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Grand Forks flood was a devastating event. We all pulled our state disaster plan off, blew the dust off of it, and realized that we needed to take that process more seriously. So nothing like a state disaster, the caliber of this, to realign all of our thinking.
Yep. So we'll work with you on that. Senator Hassan.